Dear Diary, we're nearly at the end of January and continue to do well in the Premier League, even with our strikers still not scoring. We had a frustrating 0-0 draw against West Ham at home, blowing a few great chances, but upped our tempo heading into our clash with Everton where we picked up a 3-0 win. Then it looked like we grabbed a late winner away at Crystal Palace, only to immediately concede and for it to end 2-2. That leaves us third in the Prem, as we're about to take on second place Brighton, and then Spurs off the back of January deadline day. We could make some moves on that day as we have $3 million to spend, and Gordon, Erhog, Hyde and Hine are all wanting to leave, with there being a bid in for the latter. Maybe the priority should be to try and get some quality up front. Until next time. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 74 of FMOE here on Shaun Does FM with Cardiff City. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today we take on both Brighton and Tottenham in the Premier League, either side of January transfer deadline day, where we could make some moves with £3 million in the bank and a few players who do want to leave the club. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying this series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But as you saw through the intro, we have played 3 games since yesterday's episode, where we took on Manchester City in the Premier League and then Chelsea in the FA Cup. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Our form since then has been okay. Truthfully, 3 games I would have liked 9 points from, but unfortunately we did only get 5 points out of those games, with 2 draws. That West Ham one in particular was quite frustrating. That was a game we well and truly dominated, so off the back of that did just feel like still just lacking that goal scoring touch. So maybe going to a higher tempo like we were on last season might be the best solution for that, and it did pay off against Everton at home, where we picked up a 3-0 win, albeit still no goals from our strikers. And then again, we actually scored a few away at Crystal Palace. Thought we got a late winner there through Carlos Dominguez, but right off the back of that, Edouard did grab one back. So yet again, Crystal Palace, like they have been so far in this save for us here at Cardiff, a bit of a thorn in the side, and they do steal a point late, but it does mean we haven't dropped that many points since you were last here, and are in third on the Premier League table, and are about to take on the team who are quite comfortably in second these days in Brighton and Hove Albion. Brendan Rodgers is in charge, as you can see, doing a very good job there with the likes of McAllister still there, as well as Emile Smith-Rowe playing a 4-3-3. They come into this one too, and are a really good patch of form, 5 straight wins, and usually Brighton, like Crystal Palace, are a team we have quite close matchups against, and sometimes do end up on the wrong side of them, but hopefully with that slightly higher tempo, we might be okay for this one at home, and hopefully can continue scoring some goals, because as you can see there on the team stats, our goals conceded this year is really good, the best in the Premier League, but goals scored, we are bang middle of the pack after being quite high up in that regard last season. So hopefully that is something that we can work on with this higher tempo, albeit hopefully does mean that we can still be a bit more solid at the back as well. And you can see some team news as well. Nia Kate is at AFCON with Senegal, so is unavailable for the next little while, but also Sully with a stub toe, and Bar is still coming back from his torn hamstring. Those players might be available for that second game of today's episode against Tottenham, as that one is a few weeks away, but we'll come back shortly with the team sheets and hopefully pick up some points here at home as we take on second place Brighton. And here are the team sheets for this first game of today's episode. The obvious move that we have made due to injury is Dominguez starts out left in place of Sully, but also Veliz up front, Colwell as a cam, we have Hughes at right back, and we have Hayati Ertank at centre back, with some other players in those positions being quite injury prone. Hopefully this will be the last game of the season where this is an issue, because off the back of this, some decent breaks in between our games there are Brighton. Today they are in the red, and hopefully we can get one over them here in Cardiff. And just past the 15-minute mark here, we do get our first title of this one. We try and do something it looks like here on the counter-attack, albeit Dominguez plays that one back to Goodmanson, now back to Quezada, and we take our time here to try and play out from the back, albeit these days should be with a bit higher of a tempo, and yet again Valise might have got on the score sheet, so thankfully we might have started him here over Marco Blun. Did look like he was onside, indeed it was the case, and we take an early lead here at home. Lovely ball that from Colwell for Valise in behind the defence, tucks that one away bottom right corner. Maybe this higher tempo means our strikers will start scoring goals a bit more, but that is a pretty good start, even though it took a little while to get going in that one, just shy of the 20-minute mark, and Valise puts us 1-0 up. And with about 10 minutes left in this first half, it is a free kick here for Brighton. That was a good effort there from that free kick. It was a header. I do think that Mixado might have just got a touch on that, goes on the bar, and thankfully we keep it out. And that should mean that we go into the sheds here with a 1-0 lead. Brighton very, very quiet until that free kick. Before then, we were well and truly on top, albeit still not getting a great deal of shots off in terms of overall amount. But we do take that 1-0 lead into the sheds. So quite happy with how this one is going at the moment, albeit Hughes did pick up a yellow card fairly early in that first half, so that might be a substitution we do look to make here at halftime. So hopefully see this one out. Ben Hardy is quite injury prone, but he can come on. Should be an improvement really in that area, and hopefully we can hold on to this 1-0 lead against second place Brighton. And 10 minutes into the second half, our first highlight here is a corner in favour of Brighton. McAllister whips this one into the mix, and Mara gets his head on the end of it. It falls to Nino right in front of the goal. He puts that one away. It's a bit of an unfortunate one to concede for us, but Brighton do grab an equaliser fairly early here in the second half. Unfortunately, no one there for some reason marking Nino, and it somehow beats Mixado from very close range. To Brighton do grab an equaliser, albeit might be a chance for us here to grab a swift reply, because Dominguez in some space here down this left-hand side. Unfortunately, takes a shot, albeit forces a decent save there out of Sanchez, albeit from an angle he was unlikely to score from. Now Sabitzer finds Solbakken in a bit of space there inside the box, and Brighton grab a quick-fire double, and just like that, our 1-0 lead turns into a 1-goal deficit off the back of that corner. Now they do one on the counter-attack, and Brighton yet again, much like Crystal Palace, proving to be a thorn in our side here. Really good finish, but that is disappointing. And just like that, our lead has disappeared, and while we are here, a few players out there are on quite poor ratings, so we are going to make some substitutions. Dominguez on a 6.3, also El Bloshy on a red heart, so Jashari can come on for him. We'll bring on McGuinness for Ertank. That's a normal substitution, a regular first teamer, and also out on that left-hand side for Dominguez on that 6.3. We will bring on young Louis Hurtado. Hopefully he can do something in the later stages of this one. Just over a half hour left, but we are now 1 goal down. And nearly inside the last 20 minutes of this game, and now Jovic finds himself in some space here down this right-hand side. Hopefully at least we can grab an equaliser out of this one, because that little patch there of a few minutes has put us in a bit of trouble. Jashari will try and curve that one into that left-hand corner. Takes a bad deflection the wrong side of the post, so it does remain 2-1 Brighton. And shortly off the back of that highlight, I think we're going to make our last substitution at this time. There's a few players out there on red hearts. I think we maybe could improve our defence today in this situation, having conceded 2 earlier in this half. So we'll take off our captain, Ulrika Goodmanson. Mike Stover will come on to close this one out. Still 2-1 down. And almost immediately off the back of that last substitution, now it's a corner in our favour, albeit Mara will head that one away, and Hurtado, bit sloppy there on the ball, but thankfully does get it back off Sabitzer, and hopefully we at least create some chances to try and get an equaliser in this one. Bayern plays that one back to McGuinness. Jashari will find Hurtado here on the left-hand side. Can he find someone inside the box? Him and Stovall play a little bit of a 1-2 there. Now Quezada to Jashari. Tries to pick out Hardy on that right-hand side, but again, a poor pass there from our substitute in that deep-lying playmaker role. And Muller now makes his way inside the final third. It is going to be Smith Rowe back for Sabitzer. He takes on a shot. Thankfully, that one does go off target, so we still hold on to our 2-1 lead for now, but now is Brighton with a throw-in, albeit inside their own half, and they take their time here trying to play out from the back. There is the goal scorer from earlier, and Nino takes his time on that one. Colwell with a chip, perfectly weighted, but it just goes wide. That was the big chance for us, so we are still 1 goal down with 10 minutes left. And with just under 5 minutes left in this one, we do now have a throw-in inside the final third. We have just gone to a positive mentality. Hurtado there with a header, but Sanchez just finds a way to keep that one from going over the line. As you can see, hasn't quite gone all the way over. And with 4 minutes left, it does look like we are running out of time here to grab an equaliser, even though stats-wise, we have well and truly had a lot more shots than Brighton in this game, which I suppose is encouraging, because that has been our Achilles fawn over the last little while. But we suffer a defeat there, 2-1 against Brighton at home, and teams like them and Crystal Palace continue to be thorns in our side. Pretty good first half and second half as well. Just that little patch of about 3 minutes, about 10 minutes into that second half, where they did grab 2 goals, and that has cost us. Nino from that corner, and then Solbakken on the counter-attack. Good late chance for Colwell, but unfortunately just puts it wide, and unfortunately we get nothing out of that one, which does feel a little bit harsh. It does mean now we could drop down the table a little bit before we take on Tottenham in the second game of today's episode, but not a bad performance at all. Just still need to be a bit more consistent in front of goal and prove that, because both Belize and Brun a little bit out of touch, albeit Belize did actually score today, so I suppose could be worse, but certainly a game there I thought we could have got a draw out of, and we'll come back shortly, update you guys on what the table does look like off the back of a few more matches that get played on this match day before we see what happens on transfer deadline day in January. And we are back at the start of January transfer deadline day. So first off, here is what the Premier League table does look like off the back of that most recent match day once every team had played. And we have dropped down to 5th on the Premier League table thanks to our goal differential not being as good as both Manchester City or Arsenal, and also the fact that Man City do have a game in hand as well. So all of a sudden, that top 4 might not be looking so good for us, but I think the goal this season is just to make sure that we do stay in the European place. And that next game against Tottenham could be quite big, because currently they are the team just outside of one of those spots, of course, depending on who does win the European competitions as well as the FA Cup this season. But we are about to get stuck in to transfer deadline day. We'll go down a little bit, and there you can see the deals which will possibly take place if we go over to the deadline day hub. We can show you the players who are listed for us. So Chris Brady is out on loan. His contract expires at the end of this season. If we can sell him, that will be nice, but he is unlikely to get a work permit, so it would be a good idea if we could sell him, albeit for not much money. The same case applies to Carl Jakob Hein, 600k for him. I think for next season maybe we get a backup goalkeeper who is a local or in the English system, so we don't have to worry about a work permit. So that is not as much of an issue, having to change our backup goalkeeper like we have had to do since we have come to Cardiff a few times. Of course, Persin at the end of the first season, that was also a bit of an issue. Also, players who want to leave. John Kamani Gordon, he's got a bid in for him of just under £1 million from Luton Town, so hopefully he does go there. And also Dujon Sterling and Ozagi Urhoghide also want to leave due to a lack of game time recently. So those are some players who we could raise some funds with, and we mentioned it in yesterday's episode. Hopefully, we can get something over the line for the start of next season. It's going to take a fair chunk out of our wage budget, but as you can see, we have put a bid in for Leon Goretzka to join us on a free transfer, £115,000 a week. To be fair, is a big upgrade in that defensive midfield area on someone like Blaine Quezada, who, to be fair, in terms of potential, not quite as high as he once was. So I do think this would be a brilliant transfer on a free if we can get it over the line. At the moment, no one else is in for him. So it does appear to be a bit of a free hit for us here if we can get Leon Goretzka. That could be a big signing, even though he is on the older side of things these days, still a very good player. But if we can get him over the line for the start of next season, that would be a decent bit of business. But otherwise, we'll see if any players leave, and if we need to replace them, here on January transfer deadline day. And with 11 hours left here on January transfer deadline day, we've done our first bit of business. There you can just see we've actually got a work permit in for a player, but hopefully that gets sorted out soon. Won't be anyone who does play for us at Cardiff this season, but Dujon Sterling is going to leave us for Plymouth Argyle. He is going to leave for just under £1 million. 29-year-old fullback who, to be fair, has been quite useful covering both sides, but these days, as well as being quite injury prone, is only a good EFL League One standard player and no more potential. A good time to get rid of him. So Dujon Sterling will be leaving for just under £1 million. And shortly off the back of accepting that offer for Dujon Sterling, so he went to Plymouth. We have got our first signing here of this transfer deadline day. This was a player who did have a release clause that I did see under the £3 million mark I was looking for. And we are going to sign Veljko Pajovic. He is currently at Radnički Nis in Serbia. Is another right winger, which to be fair, we do have some depth in. Of course, we have a player like Michael Sheik, who is currently away on loan from the club at the moment already because he was frustrated at not getting enough game time. Because of that reason, we are also going to loan this guy back to his current club for the rest of this season. But for £1.1 million, he looks like a very good buy because if we have a look at his player profile, 3-star current ability, 5-star potential maybe, 4 stars of it as gold, and quite a few Gallo attributes there in those roles that we do use for a winger. Can also play striker, albeit with 7 finishing. That is unlikely, but he looks a good pickup for that cheap and is our first purchase of deadline day, albeit, as I said, going straight back out on loan to Radnički Nis, but might be a player who does feature here next season. And unfortunately, what might have been our big signing on deadline day, even though it would have been for next season, is not going to happen because Leon Goretzka has signed a new contract with Bayern Munich. That is disappointing. Didn't think we had any competition for his signature. And as you can see, once Bayern did put in that new contract for him, apparently it was an easy choice to make. So unfortunately, no Leon Goretzka for next season here at Cardiff City. And with only 1 hour left in the transfer window, finally John Kimani Gordon is going to leave. He turned down the offer from Luton Town because of contract, but this time we have got a club where he does want to join for a good enough contract. So thankfully we are going to get rid of him for £1 million, and he is off to Nottingham Forest, who of course are down in the Championship. So finally we do get rid of Kimani Gordon. Brought him in a few seasons ago to be a squad player. Decent for the Championship, but to be fair, just wasn't quite fitting in here for us this season, albeit we might need to find a replacement now as a third choice attacking midfielder centrally, because that is what we were using him for this season, but we can certainly improve in that area going into next season. But we are going to cash in on Gordon while he does want to leave, getting £1 million for him. And in-game, only 15 minutes off the back of getting rid of Gordon, we have found someone to come in on loan to be our third choice attacking midfielder for the rest of the season. Someone who, as you can see, will be an emergency backup, but still could be useful if we do get suspensions or injuries. So coming in from Aston Villa will be Oscar Schwartau. He is 22 years old, out of Denmark. Pretty similar in terms of current ability to Gordon, but does have a little bit more potential and probably a bit better suited to that role compared to what Gordon was, where he was a bit makeshift. So probably a player who won't play too much for us, but still a decent option, as I said, if we do get some injuries and suspensions to the likes of Barrios and Cowell. So Schwartau is probably going to be our last signing here on deadline day. Can't see us doing too much more. It just means that we have trimmed down that squad a little bit. So we are now going to wait 10 days until we do take on Tottenham Hotspur in our next game in the Premier League. Hopefully we'll have some players back from injuries by the time we do get into that one. And as I said, this is going to be a bit of a big matchup because potentially, if we do lose this one, Tottenham could close that gap on us in that European spot, and hopefully we can get that automatically this season. And of course, earlier this season, we did pick up a 1-0 win against these guys, albeit that was at our home stadium. So hopefully we might do something similar here, even though it is over in London, but we have beaten this team before. Hopefully we can do the same again, or at the very least, pick up some points through a draw, but we'll come back shortly, hopefully, with a bit closer to a first choice 11 as we take on Tottenham. And here are the team sheets for the second game of today's episode. There are Tottenham, as you can see, in terrible form, albeit that probably makes them quite dangerous according to the rules of Football Manager in terms of us very close to our first choice 11 off the back of that international break we just did have. But unfortunately now Sully has picked up a flu, so Dominguez stays out on the left wing, but Niakate is back from AFCON and on the bench. So hopefully we might be able to do something here against Spurs at their stadium. And it's taken half an hour for us to get the first highlight in this one. It's been a very quiet game so far, but it is now Tottenham who do have the ball, and they pick out here Heung-min Son in some space. Down this left-hand side, takes a shot, takes a big deflection, falls safely into the arms of Mexado, and that was the first highlight of the game, and it was a rubbish one, albeit not too far off the back of that. We now do have the ball here, trying to play out from the back. Goodmanson here finds a little bit of space down that left-hand side. Now Quezada, forward to Farias, back in there for El Bloshy. Nice ball over the top here for Jovic. Very good chance, but unfortunately that one's saved by Costa, trying to beat him at his near post, but a very good chance there. Just can't quite put the ball in the back of the net. El Bloshy will float this one into the mixer, but unfortunately McGuinness trying to attack that one middle of the pack. Does make me wonder if I've actually set up the set pieces since switching from the vertical tiki-taka to control possession. Might be something I need to check, but with just under 10 minutes left in this first half, still 0-0. And a few minutes off the back of that previous highlight and actually changing to our regular set pieces, which we haven't had since we did make the switch from vertical tiki-taka, so a big mistake there from me, but Tottenham are on the attack. Illich there tries to put that top left corner. Very good save from Mexado, and with 5 minutes left in the first half, still 0-0. And that is half time in the second game of today's episode. Pretty quiet game, and even one in terms of stats. Both teams, the same amount of shots. Tottenham have had more possession, which is a bit concerning, and we've had less shots on target, which, to be fair, the way we're going isn't that surprising. But we go into the sheds 0-0, and that's not the worst result for us considering how things have been going with our attackers at the moment. Just hoping we can kick into life at some stage. We'll leave things the way they are at the moment, with no players having an absolute shocker, and hopefully put the ball in the back of the net at some stage during the second half. And early on, we do get a throw in here inside their half, and Blun here has the ball. Hopefully he might be able to create a goal instead of score one. Ben Hardy, a little bit of a rough tackle there from Zaniolo, but El Bloshy now a bit lazy on the ball, and Tottenham might get a chance to do something on the counter-attack. Udogie makes his way into our half somehow, keeps the ball despite that looking like a bit of a trip over with Heung-min Son, lays that one off for Harry Kane. Illich tries to spray that one out for Gonzalez, but thankfully we deal with it. Now Quezada plays this one for Farias, looking for Blun over the top there, but can't quite find him, so Tottenham will get a chance here to do something. And Heung-min Son just in behind our defence. Good shot there, but comes off the underside of the crossbar, goes out for a goal kick, and it remains 0-0. And up to the hour mark, we're going to make some substitutions now. A few players up front just struggling a little bit. I suppose Blun's still in a goal drought, so we'll bring on Belize for him. And also Ruben Colwell can come on, and we might switch him to an advanced playmaker. And also Niakate can come on for Vayam with half an hour left, still locked up at 0-0. And 10 minutes off the back of those previous substitutions, we're going to make another one now. Carlos Dominguez has also dropped down to a 6.5. A few left wing options on the bench, but Luca Orellano will come on for him. And deep into this game, we have just gone to a positive mindset over these last 10 minutes, but it doesn't look like much is going to happen in the later stages of this game. We do still have one substitution up our sleeve. There's a few players out there who are down to a red heart, but unfortunately don't have many options in terms of a right winger. With the injuries and the flu that we do currently have, Stovall can come on for Goodmanson. We'll just adjust these opposition instructions and hopefully we'll get something happening late in this one. Otherwise, it will be a very dull 0-0 draw here in London, albeit, as I said, that wouldn't be the worst result for us with that current situation, trying to get into Europe for next season, but it does look like that is all she wrote for this one. And we hold on for a 0-0 draw. As you can see, overall, it was a pretty poor performance from us yet again, just not enough shots on target. So unfortunately, not quite on our game today, but hopefully that was just a one-off at least. We're a bit more solid at the back this time around, so we hold on to get a point. Tottenham probably had enough chances there to get something more out of that game, but thankfully they do not find the back of the net, and we should stay inside our European spot there, picking up a point from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And back in the inbox off the back of those two games in today's episode, or at least the second one, not the greatest game, but we do take a point off of Spurs. So overall, not a bad record against those guys for this season, of course, after picking up that win thanks to a penalty a couple of months ago in game. And it does mean that we are still in a European spot up to 4th on the Premier League table for now, albeit Arsenal are taking on Wolves in a couple of hours' time. You'd expect them to be winning that game, but still a decent gap back to those teams like Tottenham, who are just outside of a European spot. And hopefully soon, Marco Brun in particular can start to find the back of the net. He has had a big drop-off here this season. And as you can see, in terms of those goals scored in the Premier League, now 10th best, so a slight improvement from the start of today's episode, but still not good compared to what we were doing last season maybe. That's just the result in that change of style, which has seen us be a lot more solid at the back. As you can see, second best in terms of goals conceded. Just trying to find the right balance to make sure that we do win a few more games, but that will do it for today's episode. We lose to Brighton and then draw with Tottenham with a little bit of transfer business in between those two games. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow, and I can see there over in the top right corner in late March, as I've said, from this point forward, we get some quite nice breaks in between games, so I'd like to think most of our first choice players will be available for the rest of the season, especially with no FA Cup off the back of that loss to Chelsea in yesterday's episode. But those last two in the month of March do look the most intriguing two coming up in a quick patch next for us. Chelsea and Manchester United both at home. Those two teams in the bottom half of the table, I'd like to think, especially if we can get our strikers in some goal scoring form before then, we could get some points out of those games and hopefully keep ourselves inside an automatic spot for European football next season. So we'll come back for those two games in tomorrow's episode, and from there we'll see if we need to finish the season on Friday or at the start of next week, because definitely want to show you guys that episode with Liverpool and Arsenal, but we might also need to show you guys our last few games, which do look very winnable against the likes of Norwich and Watford. But coming up tomorrow, Chelsea and Manchester United. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.